Welcome to Obsidian for Tabletop RPGs. Let's learn how to use the tool. Alright, g'day guys, and welcome back today to another Obsidian video. Today we're going to be looking at the various methods that are available for keeping your Vault in sync with another PC or another device. If you're coming here from OneNote or you're coming here from tools like Notion that are web-based, always online sort of connected in sync devices, like coming over to Obsidian can be a little bit of a shell shock because it's a local application and it's not designed to obviously have a online backup at all times. But the real benefit of Obsidian is that it's a local install that uses folders and files as its data method, which basically means that you can use almost any method you like that you're aware of currently to back up and sync your Vault. Okay, now there is an official method of sync, and it's obviously obsidian.md/sync. This is the official way to obviously synchronize your Vault. It's a paid service, subscription-based service that you can obviously come here and get from Obsidian. You can see it's $10 per month or $96 per year, and this is a really fantastic way, and I would almost go and say the recommended way. If you're on an Apple device and you want to use Obsidian on your PC or your Apple computer and your Apple iPhone or your Apple iPad, I would highly recommend having a look at this because Apple is famous for obviously making things more challenging than they need to be. That's how they make it so easy for people to use, is they don't let you do anything, okay? That's why people are attracted to Apple devices, because they don't know how to use computers necessarily properly, which means that it's scary for them. So therefore an Apple device makes sure that there's walls around that to make sure that you can play and interact safely. You're not going to do any damage, but the outcome of that means that things that I'm going to recommend today won't necessarily work as well on an Apple device. So just keep that in mind. But this is the recommended method for obviously official sync. And the benefit of this, of course, is that this gives money to Obsidian, so it helps maintain development. The Obsidian team's already grown by at least 2 people in the last year from what I'm aware of. They just got a new CIO, so that's fantastic. But yeah, this is one option. Now, I've personally not tried this. I synchronize my Vault in various different ways, and I don't think this is the right way for me. All right, we're going to go through some of those methods today. All right, so what I've got here, I've just drawn out some different sort of methods, and this is using Excalidraw for anyone who wants to know how I'm doing this, but just different methods to use for synchronizing your Vaults. Now, we've got one computer here and one computer here, and the objective is to get from one computer, get your Vault to the other computer. And it's actually quite an easy thing to do because it's just folders and it's just files. Now, I guess what we probably need to just go through here is just so that you guys understand what it is that I'm talking about. And I'm just trying to grab up the Vault. Here we go. When I say it's just folders and it's just files, all right, an Obsidian Vault is effectively this, all right. So it's a folder, and inside of that folder there's a hidden.obsidian file. This is where all your settings go, and I mean all of your settings, including like what is your active tab, where is my mouse, all right. That's all stored in here. What plugins are installed, what themes are installed, and then you've got your content, and you'll be able to recognize the tutorials here, the YouTube series. It's replicating this folder structure over here, so it is quite literally just folders and just files. Now, because of that, there's a lot of things we can do, okay? If you're coming from a tool like OneNote, right, like the data is stored in a back-end database that you can't access easily. All right, there's some hacks, but they're not fun. That's the difference with Obsidian. All right, your files are just easily accessible. If you want to grab out your file, you can. And that's what opens all of this sort of stuff up. So let's go through the first one just quickly, like a USB. All right, you can open a Vault from a folder on your computer. You can access folders on your computer via USB. So that's one very easy solution, is you just store your Vault on a USB. You unplug it, you take it with you, you plug it back in to the next computer, and away you go. Now, you do have to make sure that the mapping of that USB is the same every time, because otherwise it's going to get confusing, and it can be a little bit slow. So it's not really a method that I recommend. Then you've got things like Google Drive and OneDrive. Now, I will say that I've heard people have had trouble with these on the Apple devices, okay? But these certainly work quite well, and there's people that use them. So all you do is you have your folder in your Google Drive or your OneDrive, and you open your Vault from there. That remains in sync, and then obviously that then comes down to here, and then that gives you access to obviously use those files from a remote location, because you can just open up your Google Drive or your OneDrive and have a look through there. I'm going to come back to GitHub because that's what the video is about. Obsidian Sync, obviously, like you know what that is. They just showed you the website, so you're paying your subscription price, and you're keeping it synced between the two vaults. I've got a feeling they're using GitHub most likely. I don't know, in the back end. A lot of the stuff feels the same. And then I've got SyncThing down here as well. I'm going to do another video on SyncThing, but SyncThing is a free method of keeping files in sync between two devices. This works really well if you're trying to get from a PC, a Windows PC most likely, to an Android phone. Okay, this does not work for iPhones, and I very doubt it would work for an iComputer or whatever you call them. Alright, now all of this goes backwards as well. Alright, so data goes from here, goes to here, goes to that, goes to back, and it's really, really cool. But what we're going to talk about today is GitHub, alright, because GitHub is what I personally use. It's my preferred method. Obviously anyone who follows me would know that I have a Patreon that has a GitHub that has all of my tutorials. We're looking at that vault right here. And what that means is that using GitHub is I've got permission-based control to allow other people access to my vault. So that works really well. For anyone not familiar with GitHub, it's a code repository, and it's designed to allow lots of people to edit the same code at the same time. That's what it basically specializes in. And for those who are technical, you will see the benefit there is that it is absolutely possible to use GitHub to do live collaboration on a vault. Okay, we've had about 5 to 10 people connected at the same time on a single vault submitting their changes. That is absolutely possible. We're not going to go through that today. That gets a lot more technical. And we'll do that at a later time, but just know that it is there. So what am I using GitHub for? Effectively, I'm using it as a nice, easy way to get a backup of my vault over to my computer. Right, I have a computer at the back that I play my games on, and I run all of my games through there. I'm just bringing up the GitHub repository, and I use this to sync. So I work on this computer, I then synchronize to GitHub, and then that then gets synchronized to the other computer. So if I bring up my GitHub for this one here, all right, we can see we've got a README, we've got the tutorial contents, all right, got the YouTube series, and you can see in here that we've got access to all of the notes. I haven't synchronized this one yet, but if we go in and have a look at last night's working with PDF, we can actually click on this, and this website actually supports Markdown, so therefore you can come through and read. Now, all of the cool stuff's not going to work because GitHub doesn't understand the plugin usage, but it certainly gives you access to these websites, so you could technically edit in real time. Now, you can also give people access to your GitHub, alright, so that's really cool. I've got a whole heap of people here that, they've got access to the GitHub. Something else that I like that it does is it gives me the actual edit history of these notes. So if we go and have a look at custom CSS, for example, we'll click on here, we can click the history, alright, and we can actually see the history of this file. Now, it doesn't look like I've actually modified that one very often. Let's have a look. Now we can have a look at the commit details, maybe that'll show us. 46 commits. Alright, so we can see all the commits, and you can go in and you can actually see what's changed in that commit. Now, I really like that because it means if I stuff something up, I can go back and check the commit history and see the old version of a note. Alright, now the green means here that this is a new edition. There are red highlights. There you go, so we can see red was removed. So that way I know red was removed and replaced with the green line, and that way I've got this really intricate, detailed history of my notes. Now, that comes in handy when you're doing some code-based level stuff. Alright, but that's probably not what you're going to use it for. You're just probably going to use it as a way to get your data from one computer to another. And that works, alright? So if you've got a public-facing site, alright, something that's not locked, GitHub is free. Alright, and it gives you up to, I think it's 100 gig in order to actually maintain your data, so that's fantastic. If you do want a private site, you can pay for that. It's a subscription, $3.70 per month. I priced it out as currently. Keep in mind that these prices are all subject to change. This is a timestamp video. And they're probably in AUD for anyone in America. And then, yeah, obviously like that, you pay annually for this though, and then that goes through and it just keeps you working. But that allows you to turn it private. I do pay for that because I do like to keep myself private. Some reasoning behind that, I mean, I have 6 or 7 different vaults. A lot of those have copyright material in them, so things that I've copied in from official books that I can't share online. So therefore, having it in a private vault is preferable to me. Preferable. Alright, so how do we go ahead and do this? Alright, we're going to step through it here. It can be a little bit overwhelming to start off with, okay? But we're going to go through it slowly and see how we go. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is make sure we've got the right software installed. Alright, and for that we're going to come over to desktop.github.com. And this is basically the desktop application for GitHub. Okay, so come through here and give this a download now. As you can see, it's got a download for Windows. If you are working on a different OS, just do some Googling and find out what is the recommended desktop application for GitHub for your operating system. All right, there's so many out there. This is not the only option that you can use. I've personally got Git installed, and that can be a fantastic alternative as well. GitHub Desktop is just nice and simple and easy to use though, and I do like to use it. So go ahead, download and install that. That's going to obviously install an application, and that application is going to look a little bit like this. It won't have all of this open here when you first start. It's probably going to prompt you to have a create a repository or open a repository. Alright, so let's go back to Obsidian. Alright, we've got our Obsidian TTRPG vault here with all of our stuff in it. What we're going to do though is we're going to go ahead and we're going to just create a new vault. Alright, let's just pretend that there's a vault here that we want to use. So test vault 2023 1202. Where are we going to put it? We're going to put it in my Obsidian folder, which is where all my vaults go. I'm going to go into there. Alright, and then that's going to create a new vault. Alright, so here we go. And let's just create a note here, just for fun and games. New note. This is my new note. Now, you can do anything with your vault. You might be using an old vault, you might be using a new vault. That's up to you, but this is just now a test vault that we're going to use for the purposes of it. You could use any vault you like. Now, we'll go back to GitHub Desktop. From the File menu, we're going to add a local repository. Now, click Choose. Come here to Obsidian. We've got the test vault. We select that. Alright, and it says this directory does not appear to be a Git repository. Would you like to create a repository here instead? I'm going to click Yes, and it's going to give me the name. I'm going to put a README in there and click Create Repository. Alright, that's now turned this into a repository. Okay. And if we go back and we have a look at our folder, just to see what actually has occurred here, we can now see that we've got a folder. We've created a vault here, so it's got a .obsidian file. Alright, but we've turned this into a GitHub repo, which means it's got a .git and a .git attributes file in here as well. It's added in that README file that we asked it to add in, and you can see my new note. And if we just go through and do this again, just to make sure that everyone understands, where did I put it? Get out the way. You come back here and go into this one. We'll create a new folder, and inside of there we'll create a new note. And if we come back to here, we can see new folder, second new note is there as well. So everything is functioning, and then we'll go back to our GitHub Desktop. Alright, and we can see here that we're starting to see changes. Alright, and this is what GitHub is really fantastic for, is it basically listens to a folder and says, oh, these are the changes that have occurred, and it just gets a list and keeps a list of those things. But what we need to do is we need to publish this repository. So click Publish Repository, keeping in mind that you will need a github.com user ID, and you'll need to be obviously logged into that through the application. But we're going to publish this. We're going to name it the test vault. We're going to keep it the same. Keep this code private, doesn't really matter. I'm paying a subscription, so I can do that, but you don't need to. You could probably just do that if you want your public facing free version. And click Publish Repository. Alright, it goes ahead and synchronizes those changes. Okay, now we've synced that. I can click Fetch, and what Fetch means is that goes to GitHub and fetches those changes down to my computer. Or I can come here and say, alright, I'm ready to push my changes that I've just made. Alright, I'm going to commit it. Now, this is my commit name, this is my commit description. Using these, you can obviously provide a name and a description for the changes that you're making, so you can keep track and some sense over what you're doing. I'm going to click Commit to Main. That basically adds it to a bucket that says we're going to send this to GitHub Online. And you can see the push origin has now come up. We click Push Origin, and that now pushes that change up to the website. Now if we come back to GitHub, alright, I'm going to come back to my account, have a look at my repositories. Here it is, we can see the repository has now been made, and we can see there's a copy, and I mean a copy, of this folder structure, alright, now on GitHub. Okay, so we can see it's almost word for word. You can't see the .git, alright, that's because it's a hidden folder in GitHub. It is there. You can see the .git attributes, the new note, the new folder, alright, and you can also come in here and have a look at your second new note. Alright, now that's really all that's involved in synchronizing your data to GitHub, because what you can do now is you can go to another computer, okay, and you can go install GitHub Desktop, and you can go File, Clone Repository, and then from there you'll be able to get a list of all of the things that you've got access to. Where is it? There it is. Alright, so I can click that, I can tell it where I want to put it, and I can click Clone. I'm just going to do this for the sake of it. I'm going to click Clone. That will clone down a copy of that onto your new PC. Now, what did that do in this situation here? Did it go in here? Where did I put it? There we go. It's actually within the vault. Okay, probably not the best place to put it, but you get the point, is it works. Alright, so the idea with GitHub is what you do is you work on one computer, alright, and you get your changes and then you synchronize them to GitHub, and then you close Obsidian on that computer. That's my biggest tip to you guys, alright, because as long as Obsidian is open, it's going to try write changes to files, and GitHub really does not like it when you get a conflict of data happening in the same file, because it's going to give you this confusing Git merge stuff that says, you know, there's a conflicting change, please figure out which one you want to use. You don't want to get stuck into that loop. So use GitHub on one computer, alright, do your push up to GitHub, and then shut down Obsidian, alright, on that computer. Then go to your next computer, open up GitHub Desktop, and you'll have a fetch button up here. You press that, that will download the changes to your new computer, open up Obsidian, make your changes, do your session, whatever. When you're finished, go back to GitHub and do a push by putting in the summary here in the description and sending a push through, pushing that up to GitHub, alright, then shut down Obsidian and go back to your original computer. Follow that process, alright. If you get in a situation where you run from one computer to the other and you open up Obsidian on both, then you're going to have some conflicts, most likely in the files that keep track of what tabs are open, and it gets confusing, and you have to do some Googling to figure out how to solve that. And it basically means that you need to either throw away some changes that you may have made on one computer and keep the changes on the other, which is risky, right, because you never know which change you're going to keep. But if you followed my advice and you just open one, right, sync it, shut it down, go to the next one, open it up, sync it, shut it down, then you should be absolutely fine with no issues there. Alright, now just to walk us through just that change again, just so that everyone can see it, let's just go create a new file. Alright, go back to GitHub Desktop, open up our original vault, and you can see that that third file now exists there. We're going to push. I like to give it a date. This is my push. My spelling is terrible. Commit to main. Alright, we're going to push to origin. Sends the data through. Alright, and off we go. So let's just jump in here though and have a bit of a play just to see what's going on. We've got the third file. Alright, we can see it's just been pushed. If we come up here and click this button, alright, we can see a list of the push and what was changed in that push. Okay, so that's really quite handy. If you come up to commits, you can see a list of all of your pushes, so you can see what's happened. And you can come into these and you can see that the push names that I'm putting in here are here, so you can label them and obviously keep that nice and easy for you to understand what it is of those changes that were made. You can click these buttons to view the commit details. You can browse the repository at this point, which basically means like having a look at a snapshot of the data at that point, which is really fantastic. If you break something, you can go back and get your previous version of a note, and you know, you just keep it from there. So anyway, that's basically it, right? Like, it's really not that challenging to do it this way. I don't think so. There are more automatic ways. We're not going to go through that in this video, but just so you are aware, there is a command prompt version of GitHub Desktop that's called Git. And if you install that and get it working, there's a plugin in Obsidian called Obsidian Git that will automate all this pushing and pulling for you. All right, you can set it on a timer. I personally prefer control myself. All right, I found that I had less error rate when I controlled it myself. I had less write conflicts. So I've personally just gone back to just pushing and pulling at the end of each session. That way I'm in full control of my data, and I like it that way. So anyway, that has been how to use GitHub in order to set up a live sync between two PCs. You can use that for free, or you can pay a little bit of a subscription each month and get a private version of it. It is cheaper than obviously the Obsidian Sync when you calculate it out, so you know, it's a fantastic method. And you will find that lots of people in the Obsidian world use GitHub on a regular basis, so it pays to get quite familiar with it because you use it quite a lot. Anyway guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this content. That has been how to use GitHub for your live sync requirements. If you do enjoy this content, please do like and subscribe using the buttons below. I want to say a huge and massive shout out to all of my patrons. Thank you for your support. I seriously probably would not even still be doing this as regularly as I am if it wasn't for you guys. You've turned it into a passionate side job for me. See, I said job, not hobby. But no, thank you guys. It's amazing. I'm loving the community work. Outside of that, I will speak to you on the socials. Have a fantastic day. Thank you.